Yeah, that song sounds good, yeah. That is the perfect song for this video. Hello there, friend. Welcome back to Max's Writer's Life Vlogs, where I talk about my process, what I've been up to this week, as well as offering writing advice and inspiration along the way. Fun fact, I don't know what song is playing. Max from the future is gonna sort that out. I sure hope Max from the future puts a really good song in here. Oh, what if Max from the future instead just puts like the Benny Hill song? They couldn't, because that song is like... it belonged to somebody. It ought to belong to somebody, and I'm sure they won't like me just putting it on my YouTube video. But anyhow, hello there. Am I doing the opening again? Now, this week, Camp Remo is going on. I'm gonna share a little bit about my update. I didn't do much writing. I did lots of something else, but we'll cover that in a moment. Other than that, I'm also going to be talking about the idea of too much description versus too little description, and sharing my thoughts on that as well. So let's take it from the top. Oh, what was I up to this week? This week I had like half a day of writing. I just did probably like 2,700 words. I had one more chapter that I needed to do for that project that I almost kind of finished last week. I just needed one more chapter, and I just boop, got it done. After that, I've been formally in the depths of editing hell. Just mining away. I guess if I mine all the way through hell, I'll make it to heaven. I mean, technically speaking, in Dante Alighieri's magnum opus, like he had any other work, Dante's Inferno, or rather the Divine Comedy, because Dante's Inferno is only part one of a trilogy. Did you know that? But yeah, anyways, in Dante's Inferno, or rather the Divine Comedy, anyways, you have to descend to the lowest level of hell, past the 9th ring, which is all frosty, which I always thought that was a really cool detail. From there, you actually find the gate to purgatory, so I guess it's kind of inverted. I mean, maybe, when you think about it, maybe within this, I guess, biblical version? This take on hell, maybe it's actually inverted. You beginning at the top of hell is actually starting at the bottom, and you climb up into purgatory and then into heaven. But anyhow, I read the Divine Comedy like a bunch of times a long time ago. I remember none of it. The funny thing about the Divine Comedy, fun fact, is that it's full of references from that period. Like a bunch of the people that Dante, fun fact, talk about a self-insert, right? Dante literally put himself in the book. What a nerd. Okay, real talk. My computer just crashed like 2 minutes ago, so I'm going to assume that this is Dante Alighieri from the grave being all like, yo Max, why'd you be like that? Why'd you gotta be like that? Yeah, long story short, in the Divine Comedy, Dante stumbles upon people from that time. It's pretty funny, it's pretty silly, it's pretty interesting. But now into my actual week, I did tons of editing. Can you tell I can't talk about what I was doing? It's a bunch of like internal stuff, like, I'm like, oh, that line, I fixed it. You have no point of reference for what I fixed, because you would have to actually read the passage and know the context. But yeah, lots of editing. Again, if you haven't heard this tip, I'm gonna give it to you one more time. Really good advice for editing. Read your work out loud. It's probably the easiest way to spot missing words, double words, or just sentences that are all jumbled up. At least for me, because I have dyslexia, so that helps fix things along the way. But anyhow, a little bit of writing, a lot of getting in trouble with Italian writers from the 13th century, guys. I don't remember when the Divine Comedy was. I wasn't even born back then. I can't be expected to remember all these dates. That excuse never worked in high school. As though you come to this channel to get excuses for not doing work. Just like, I'm sorry, teach. I can't do this history homework. Like, how could I be expected to know all of this? I wasn't born back then. Anyhow, aside from editing and a little bit of writing, what have I been up to? I'm still stuck in the depths of SAO hell. In case you know what Sword Art Online is, and you're looking at me like Max, that you're holding filthy things in your hands, the books are actually pretty good. The first and second book, because this is book 3 and 4? Yeah. Book 3 and 4, they've been okay. The anime adaptation is terrible. Spoilers, it's gosh doodly darn garbage. The books are actually really good. I've really been enjoying them. I'm hitting the point now where I'm about to get burnt out on SAO, so once I finish these books, I'll probably take a break, because I still have... I have Phantom Bullet sitting here. Look at this jump in, like, book length. That's a little bit silly. I actually really want to read Phantom Bullet, because Kitty and I are... That was loud. Kitty and I are watching season 2 of SAO. So anyways, Welcome back to Max's anime updates. That's probably more fitting. Not a lot of writing to talk about, because I did very little of it. But anyhow, that was my week. That's what I've been up to. Let's dive into today's subject of the day. That's not redundant at all. Not redundant at all. And one more thing before I start reading today's question. Remember that I get questions from viewers like you, so if you have a writing question, please feel free to leave it down in the comments below. The question you'll be hearing today was sent in by a viewer just like you, and it goes a little bit like this. Like this. Would you say there is a set amount of description writers should give to characters, settings, objects, etc., or should this be left up to the writers themselves? I've always made it a point to give readers the clearest possible image of characters and their surroundings as I can, but I hear and read things every so often that say to do the exact opposite. So let's take this question from the top. Very first thing, do I think, would I say? I find those to be like, I don't want to say the silliest questions because the answer is really simple. Like, do I think that writers should do X or Y? No, that's a pretty quick answer. No, I think you have already answered the question. Should it be left up to the writers? Absolutely. Here's the dealio. And I've said this in the past, and consider this a refresher course on writing advice and how you should take writing advice. I would like to urge you to stay away from writing advice that tells you to do X or Y, or just really, really hard rules. What I like to do with this channel, and basically the entire basis behind the way that I do things, is that I want to offer my point of view and show you my writer's toolbox. If you don't know where that's coming from, read a really good book, link in the description below, On Writing by Stephen King. Probably my most favorite book on writing advice and just being a writer in general. I love that book. But in that book, Stephen King talks about the concept of the writer's toolbox. And it's this imaginary collection of tools that you have. You have them right now. You've been gathering them all of your life without realizing it. And getting advice is like taking a look at somebody else's toolbox. And people usually show up to you and they're like, hey, take this tool, use it. It's the best tool, the right tool, the tool you should be using. If you want to succeed, you gotta use that tool. If you don't want to fail, you gotta use that tool. Isn't it great when people try to get your attention with vinegar instead of honey? But anyhow, they come up to you and they're like, use this tool, this is the way. Instead of, hey, consider it, ask yourself, do I like this tool? Does it work for me? Try it out. And if it doesn't work for you, toss it. If it works for you, stick it in your toolbox and move on. Simple as that. Now, with that refresher course on writing advice, how you should analyze it, and the writer's toolbox, let's dive into the actual answer. Too much description, too little description. How do you define that? Is there a way to know? Is there a right or a wrong way? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, wiggle, wiggle. The answer is no. Every writer does it differently. I actually really like the response that George R.R. Martin has, and it's funny because he's kind of the person who's known for having too much description, and he actually tackled that in a response, and I forget where I read it. I think it's on Goodreads. Don't quote me on it. It might have been a quote on Goodreads now that I think about it, but anyhow, he talks about the idea of people asking him, is like, hey, don't you have too much description in your books? And he replied with, I think that writers are creating the content they want to see in the world. And I like books with a lot of description. Thus, I write books with a lot of description. It's actually really straightforward. And that's pretty much right there the answer to all of these color / subjective questions in writing, things that are really ultimately about taste. What sort of description do you like in the stories that you read? Once again, going back to your question, I definitely think that it's up to the writer. Ultimately, as I've said in the past, you gotta have fun with what you're doing, and you gotta be enjoying the process. Otherwise, the readers will be able to tell. So ultimately, create the stories you want to read. As for the amount of description that I enjoy, I like to give the reader a clear image of what the character looks like, define any important, crucial elements of the character's appearance that I believe are important and like I need to relate to you. So you know, hey, X character looks like this, they dress like this, and move on. It's kind of the way that I like to do things. In part also because there have been times myself, and I am super guilty of this, where I read a book and I read a character description or a description of a particular thing, and I know that the writer wants me to picture it one way, but I will picture it another way because I think it would look cooler. One example of this, for all of you Mistborn nerds out there, the first Mistborn novel, I think it's called Mistborn, lol. The main one of the main characters, Kelsier, I know that he's supposed to have short blonde hair. I understand. I get it. Brandon Sanderson, I understand. You're wrong. He has long black hair, and he reminds me a little bit of Van from Vision of Escaflowne. Yeah, that's the image right there. I understand. It's Brandon Sanderson, author of Mistborn. I know that Kelsey are supposed to have short blonde hair. That's wrong, though. Things like that are going to happen. Little things like that are going to happen, especially if you're me. So instead, I try not to worry too much about it. Again, I create the sort of content that I would enjoy, and I give the reader a clear description of my characters, and then I move on. If people want to picture them differently, hey, I'm guilty of that as well. So again, we create the content that we enjoy. Now, with that silliness out of the way, what do I recommend for you? I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, would urge you to find your own happy medium. Like, be honest with yourself. What sort of description do I like in my stories, and seek to create that? Now, hold on to that thought. I know you have questions. I know you're thinking of something. Hold on to that for a moment. I'm gonna have it right here, ready for you. First and foremost, if you're in the first draft, write the story, write it the exact same way that you would like it, write it with the levels of description that you would enjoy, get it done, get it written, and then when you're in the revision phase, as always, consider to take a chance and ask yourself, hey, was the description enough? Should I describe a little bit more here? Was that too much? Does that extra description take things out of the story? Again, if you're in the middle of the first draft, worry about none of these things. Do not worry about them at all. Remove them from your mind. They don't matter. Again, I know that I give that advice a lot, pretty much very, very often, like on a bi-weekly sort of basis. But seriously, like, there is this unspoken implication that younger/newer writers have, that your favorite authors wrote things right the first time. That's not true. That's mega not true. Especially if you want just really quick homework right now, go and Google the first original page of The Hobbit. It's terrible. That first page is really bad. Go Google it. The first page of The Hobbit, unedited. It's not very good. To once again show you that revision is your friend. With revision, you can turn anything to gold. And with all of those things out of the way, first and foremost, if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below, and as well as your week. What have you been up to? Have you been writing? How is Camp NaNoWriMo going for you? I would love to hear all of your thoughts in the comments down below, but for the time being, I gotta get going. I've got a lot of editing, both writing and video-wise, that needs to happen, so for the time being, thank you for watching, thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll see you on the next one.